Okay, December 1st, Public Arts Committee, consistent with Executive Order N2920, in-person participation by the public will not be permitted, and no physical location from which the public may observe the meeting will be available. Remote public participation is allowed using the Zoom program. Okay, so let's move into the roll call. We've got Margie.
Here.
Barbara.
Here.
Jeff.
I'm here.
And I am here, and Lars is going to be here soon, hopefully. So we can move on with that. We have no minutes to approve of right now. I'm sure we'll get those later. So we can move past that. Carrie, do we have any comments from the public regarding items not on the agenda?
We do not.
Okay. Flying right through. Do we have any statements of conflicts of interest? No. The consent calendar.
And we shouldn't have any items for that.
Okay. So we have one regular agenda item, the Ives Park Sculpture Garden and the signage that's going to go with that. I didn't get a written report, so I'm assuming we could just go ahead and start with, let's say, Margie.
Okay. I just have to say, Jen, you look stellar.
So do you.
All right. So what I have for what needs to be done is to discuss and set up signage, letter to sculptors, check with about public works needs, discuss the opening dates, ceremony activities, and who will be taking care of what part of that, and discuss the open pedestals. We have pretty much, I think, all agreed that one of them would be for people to take pictures of themselves and their friends. And I don't think we decided whether that would be number 3 or number 7, so we could decide that. And the other one, what might be happening with that, my suggestion was that there would be a piece of community art from some community activity generation, and that piece perhaps would just be for a 6-month term per piece rather than the year for the other ones that have been selected. So I think to start with the letter for the sculptors, to the sculptors, and the signage, and for the letter to the sculptors to check in with Jeff and anyone else in terms of, I think Barbara was perhaps also working with that, getting that sent out, and asking for their input about signage. And then I think we should have some deadline for getting that information from them so that the signage can be created, and letting them know what location their piece will be on, and asking them to think about what orientation they might be interested in having, and any other needs. Oh, and discuss installation and any other needs.
Good.
So I just wanted to speak to the what you worded as letters to the artists. It was my understanding that Barbara and I were going to actually try to call those artists.
Okay,
so
fine.
Make it a little more, speed up that timeline.
Excellent.
And perhaps that would also be the right opportunity to inform them of their platform locations. Just a thought.
Yeah. So thank them, let them know about the location, and then the other information that I mentioned, and perhaps you and Barbara have other pieces of discussion with them. So where are you in terms of having those calls made?
Well, we have the revised list of questions, and took some of your suggestions and edits, Margie. That's all been added in there and or edited that way, which includes a congratulatory intro, etc. So it's just a matter of getting their phone numbers.
Okay,
Thank you. And Jeff and Barbara, I can send you their original applications, which will have their, I know we redacted it for, the phone numbers and emails for public information, but I can get you the unredacted. I did go through, because they don't need to require insurance, we do need to get a waiver from them. We did get a couple submitted from Brianna and Sarah with their submittals, but we do need to get those. So that's one item that I'm hoping you can add, and I can send you the waiver. It's in the call, but I can send that to you as a separate PDF document that they would need to fill out and submit. And so that would be needed from Beth, Caro, Noah, and Jeffrey.
great. So, and you're going to give them the phone numbers.
Yeah,
So,
I'll just get you the full packet of the submittals. Without
considering, just trying to make things move along in a timely way, what kind of setup should we set up for reporting back from, in terms of installation information and other things? Do we need to wait a month until, if they, let's say, made the calls the next week, do we need to wait a month for the next meeting, or is there some way we can set up to move things on? Any ideas, Carrie, Barbara, Jeff? Yeah, Barbara?
Yeah, I just had a couple of comments about the letter, and I want to thank Jeff for doing this. It's very helpful. And one of the things that I mentioned was that on number 3, we aim to have all accepted sculptures installed by the end of November. I think we need to amend that because it's now past that time, and try and get some kind of a time frame, maybe mid-December or late December, something that's realistic, because I think hearing back from Public Works may influence when we do the installation. That's a question. That was one thing that occurred to me. And then the other was that I think calling the artist is a great idea. I would also suggest following up with this letter so that they have something in hand, because it's easy to forget what you've talked about. And here it's spelled out, numerically exactly what we need from them. So I think if we could let them know that we will be sending them a letter and that will include a waiver so that we can do both things at once.
Excellent. Excellent.
And yeah, I have a big event this weekend, and hopefully everybody can come to my studio on Harrison Street for the weekend exhibit. So I'll be free after Sunday night, much more so than I have been this last week. So, but I think following up is important so people can refer, especially if they have any questions, and to put our numbers on this letter. What do you think, Jeff? Do you agree that having our numbers would be helpful for them to contact us if they have questions during the whole process of installation?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That seemed prudent to me.
Okay, I don't have any problem with my phone number or email being used. But I think
And then you can also put my contact info on there as well.
Okay, Jeff, is that something you can add to this letter that will be, well,
Yeah,
this will accompany the waiver, huh?
I'm taking some notes on other edits and things to add on.
Okay. And then on number 5, it says we will be taking photo and video records of the sculpture. Are we intending for the artist to be present during the installation?
Yes.
Okay, I'm scanning this again. I don't see where that's suggested. I think we should be clear about that, because we don't want them to feel that they're not included in that important step, but also they may have some ideas about how to install it or configure it or whatever on site that day.
Yeah, I thought in the initial one, we did mention their presence and participation, but yes, definitely. Okay. And then ask them if they have any reluctance to be photographed themselves, or if that's fine. And, we have their agreement. And so actually we might probably, Carrie would know this better, need that in writing. And so were you thinking, Barbara, of the follow-up letter, which I think is excellent idea, to be an email or a postage letter.
I think email's fine.
Okay,
A lot of people are getting more accustomed to it and are, concerned about paper and all that stuff. So
yeah, excellent, excellent.
And the
Thank
waiver,
you.
though, excuse me, the waiver, can we have that sent back to you, Karen?
Yes, yeah, that would be the
Like,
best way.
can they
to do that. Yeah.
DocuSign that or something?
They can DocuSign or sign it and scan it either way. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't need a hard copy of it.
So Jeff, is that something that you'd be willing to do to amend this letter to include that the waiver that's likely enclosed as an attachment with the email needs to be signed and returned?
Yeah, definitely. And Carrie, just got your email with the contacts. But just to reiterate for clarity, you said some waivers have already been submitted. And you
Correct.
just-
We do from two of the artists on the list, Brianna and Sarah. I already have waivers on file. The others I will need the waiver from.
Okay.
And they can just email that directly to me, but if you're, and I definitely appreciate your help tracking and coordinating this. If they want to send it to you and so that you can track that, that'd be great too.
So,
And
okay,
Excuse me, I think that when we call next week, Jeff, telling them when, approximately when the installation will be, and we could have a window of maybe a week or so, but that's something we'll probably decide during this meeting. Is that right, Carrie? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And did you get a date from Public Works on what was going to work for them?
I did get a discussion with Dante, and he said he doesn't need a whole lot of time, to schedule it out in advance, but that the best days for him were going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays, just because of the workflow of what his crews are doing during the week. And so he doesn't need a lot of advance warning. We'll just, if it's going to take, 4 hours for each piece, then it might take a couple of weeks, obviously, to get them all installed.
So could we
And-
almost pick some dates now and start setting up a few people on Tuesdays and Thursdays over the next, the course of late December seems crazy, right? Because of the holidays?
so if any of the sculptures are already completed, maybe we could do it before the holidays. Or would actually, you're right, to install, so that's another thing we need to decide. Are we going to do the installations and how much time would it take, and publicize that they're being installed and have them all being installed, at the same time, or at least sequentially? Or do we want to do it just when it comes in? Here's one, and then a couple of weeks, here's one. So that's something we need to be clear about.
And to be able to schedule the artists in order to be there.
Yes,
Their drop off may not be the same time as the installation. I don't think we have storage for them though. So maybe it will be. Actually, it
Right.
probably will
Yeah,
be the
yeah,
same time
yeah,
it's
yeah.
installed. Yeah.
yeah. So the relationship between the installation dates and the opening.
Do we know
to
how many
clarify.
are done?
Carrie.
When we asked so if you recall, during the process, we asked if after the first meeting, you all wanted to know when it could be completed. And they all said that they could complete it by the November date. So since that was, I think that was late September at that time. So they're probably either all completed or can be completed within that, by the time we get an installation date.
Terrific.
I thought that.
So-
But Barbara and Jeff, if you can confirm that with the artist, that as you're contacting him, that would be perfect.
Okay. Jeff, maybe we should just take that list and divide it in half. We
Yes,
can talk more about that afterwards. Thank you.
So, and let's just figure how we want, once you get you talk to them. Again, my question is, can we have that information before our next meeting so that we can move forward, or how do we need to proceed?
we may also, in our contacts with the artists, Of course, letting them know Tuesdays and Thursdays within perhaps the next 30 days. Are they available for any of those Tuesdays and Thursdays? Can they give us some alternative dates so we can see which ones fall on the same dates, perhaps? I mean, it might save Public
Talking-
Works, to have them out there for more than one artist at a time.
Yeah, I think to develop an actual schedule, like this date at this time, this artist will be there, so that we know and we don't have any confusion or overlap. That's going to take some coordination, I think. But if we have 2 weeks of 2 Tuesdays and 2 Thursdays that we can ask the artist to fill in, I think that would be helpful.
So for just looking at the calendar on December's, on Tuesdays, we have 7, 14, 21, 28. On Thursdays, we have 2, 9, 16, 23, and 30.
Okay, we probably don't want to do 30 because that's what, New Year's Eve or something.
Right, and 28
We can't do
is,
Christmas week too.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
you please be respectful. There are some holiday, Public Works has standby, but they're not necessarily going to have the same
Yeah.
kind of crew they would.
so
And
then
We
in this,
probably
yeah.
can't ask for next week. So that's either 14, 16, which doesn't seem like enough, or we just shoot for January. That means everything will be done by January. And we can go 4, 6, 11, 13 in January, those 4 days. And then we have our opening sometime in mid-Jan.
well, what about in December? We have 9, 14, and 20, 21.
That's
The
pretty
14th and
close.
That's in December.
the
Mhm,
9th might be too early to ask Public Works. That's a week away.
mhm.
Um,
I
Carrie?
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm happy to ask Public Works for, I'm actually doing an email right now, just so you know, Jeff and Barbara, to Dante and Nathan Sutton, who's his assistant Public Works superintendent. And I'm CCing both of you to let them know, hey, we're looking at dates for this, so that you guys are in the loop best with their responses. And so right now I have likely at beginning of January, looking at the dates 11, 14, and 16. Is that correct?
11, 13.
Yeah, 4,
Did
6,
you say January?
January
4, 6,
11, 13, 18.
13. Thank you.
can we just go back and look at December? There's 3
Yeah, yeah.
dates in December, 14, 16, and 21 are remaining. I mean, if that's possible, we don't need to put it off till January. And we could have the opening in January, in the very beginning or something like that, New
So
Year.
December 14th, 16th, and 21st. So I'll send them both of those sets of dates. And to me, it's all up to, what the artists can do and what the, because you might run into artists being out of town for the Christmas and stuff as well. But we can at least start getting Public Works and Barbara and Jeff coordinating on that with the artists.
Okay, can we,
Tending toward January, though, I'm just feeling like squeezing it with the holidays, and
Yeah.
I hate to use that as an excuse, but it seems to be a reality. Do we?
That was my thought too, and I totally understand, Margie. You've been working on this for some time, and
Really?
you want to see it happen. I'm sure we're on board with you there, but I did have a thought about how things tend to slow down this time of year, particularly unless you're a shopper. But that might be the reality. So we may find out from these artists that I'm out of town, or who knows, right?
And then
yeah.
rushing it could end up we could have just a few in and then some that can't come until January. So the question is, do you want to do it all at once or have it scattered throughout the next 2 months? Because that kind of seems like what might actually happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the consensus is January, I would go with that. The reason why it's not,
We all get it.
let me, just a little bit what Jeff said, but it's also, I understand in a way things slow down around the holidays, but they also excite up and the energy is up and people, new things and presents and and opening. So that's what I was thinking of writing. If we,
Mhm.
it's okay if people think, hi, Lars. It's okay if people think that it's not a good idea and we want to wait till January. I'm just saying that January, then we don't have that. We have a little bit of it left, but not that much. And I agree that all at once is much better than bits and drabs. So it may be, yes, it may be the artists are away, but you know what? They might be gone in January. Who knows what
So
their
there's one
schedule is
other
like.
thing I'll add
Yeah.
here, because if we wanted to try to shoot for 9, 14, and 16th of December, that means we got to hustle and talk to the artists right now, see if they're ready. And then we also need to get signage done, which I'm happy to work on this week, make it happen, but I can have these done by tomorrow night, everything, all signage, graphic design wise done, but can we even order them that fast? So that would be, we could even, I mean, technically, if we could do the 9th, 14th, and 16th, we could have an opening on the 18th or 19th weekend.
Of December?
Oh, man, yeah.
I don't
No.
know, you know,
No.
you
I
can't do
agree.
it the weekend before, you can't do it the weekend of Christmas, and you can't do it the weekend of New Year's. So that's the only time you could have an opening in December.
No,
The
can I
21st.
chime
Yes,
in?
please.
I think, sorry, I'm late. I'm in New York.
Welcome.
I'm in New York City. And
Oh, lucky you.
I'm getting on a plane soon, but so I think that we just have to set a bunch of dates because they're not all going to line up, right? So I think we should set some in December and set some in January. And through the course of that, we get the signage done. And by the end of January, we hope that it's all done and we have an opening. But if there's 2 or 3 sculptures sitting there done with no signage for 3 or 4 weeks, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But we may not be able to do any in December because no one's available, right? But if we limit ourselves in dates, it could go into February. That would be.
I agree. And I
Like
also
just start
think
the process and see what happens, kind of.
and riding the high of the holidays, it's going to happen no matter what, but we could really bring some super big joy to January,
Yeah.
which is kind of a down month. And we could be there to, make the beginning of 2022 super fun with our new thing. So maybe think of it as that, there's.
I agree. I think launching January with something like this is a cool thing. I think trying to compete with the holidays and that's 5 days in January. That's a lot. 5 different choices. So I don't know. I'm gonna stop now.
In terms of the signage, we do need to find out, and thanks, Jen, for being willing to get that ready. And
Yeah.
we
No
need to
problem.
find out about the production of it. And my thought is, if it doesn't work for when we need it, we could have some temporary ones.
I could hand do temporary signs.
Yeah, thank you. And can you, what do we need to find out production dates for the signage? Who is doing that? And who can get
depends
that
on if
information?
You guys saw the metal sign that was drafted up and
Mhm.
did the whole thing in the website of the metal sign folks. I don't actually remember how long that took for production to get those back. Carrie, do you remember?
I don't recall, but I think that since that's already in that system,
I'll double check on that,
That'd
but
be
that
great,
was
yeah.
just the entry sign. So if you want that same entry sign for each individual sculpture, we could do that too. Or I do outdoor signage for people all over the place. They last years. No drips, no streaks. I could hand do signs for each one of the sculptures and have those done whenever you needed them to. They'll look decent. They won't be on metal, but they'll be free.
What are they made out of? The ones you do then that last?
I would do a tap plastic, matte black, and it's a material called P95. It just lasts forever. And I would paint on them, but we could erase it. I could even drill the holes in all 4 corners, and you could actually attach it. So
And the paint is what is like an oil-based paint or an enamel?
Nope, not oil-based paint, but I mean, like the Red Car Winery and Mom's Apple Pie and all the A-frames down in the Barlow, or I've done signs all over Sebastopol, but they won't drip. I mean, I put one out at Whole Foods that was out there for years on the corner,
Okay,
and it still looked like the day I did it. So, and we're talking about a year, so I have
Yes,
full confidence
yes.
that,
Right.
so maybe that would make more sense for the, not for the entry ones, but for the
Right.
artist ones, and it would be less costly.
Mhm.
yeah,
That'd be
I
great.
have plenty of that material. So,
Thank you.
That'd be
yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Okay. Great.
I would, along, on the topic of signage, if possible, it would be really helpful if we had just some kind of a doc that actually showed the one and or, the several pieces of signage that we're planning to use in the CSG. So we could kind of see them all together with their proposed dimensions. That's just something I think would be helpful to all of us as a committee.
I could do something and just put it together in Photoshop, do it to scale, and anyone will, go ahead and suggest the size. I don't know the dimensions of the bottom of the platform, but I'm assuming you'd want them attached along the bottom of the
Mhm.
platform somewhere, or
Yeah,
on top, right below the sculpture.
Oh.
I think on the bottom. and
On the
each
bottom,
one,
along
make
the
each one
side.
perhaps to the right, so that they're consistent.
Yeah, that's my thought, was also on the side face, because it'll be perpendicular to the viewers, and also the side which faces the walkway more prominently.
On the other hand, I'm just thinking, I initially thought on the side, but then I'm thinking if you want to read it, if it's on the top, you just look down. If it's on the side, I guess you have to back up and hopefully it's big enough so you can read it. Otherwise, you have to
Or-
squat down.
If you walk up the wrong direction, you might not see it because you'd have to walk around it to see it on the right, depending on which way you're
That's
walking.
right. So
toward it.
that's another reason maybe better on top.
Well, it may interfere with the sculpture if it's on top.
Could.
Mm,
It
I don't know
depends.
if any of the
I mean,
bases of the sculpture are as big as our platforms.
I don't think so, but
I didn't think so either.
Well, we could actually have an arrow stencil which actually points to the face where the signage is mounted, and just then trust the intelligence level of our visitors.
No, I don't
Otherwise,
think,
they're going to get PixNet looking down at that.
I don't think we need an arrow. Well, do we need to decide right now, top or side?
I think the more we can decide now, the better.
Okay.
How
Yeah, and I would
about-
say however it gets mounted, it will probably be replaced by the same size sign the next year for the next art. So it's even if there's, like a silicone or glue or something that gets scraped off at the end, it won't be, even if it leaves sort of a residue on the concrete, you're just going to be putting another one there the next time, the same size. So that won't matter, I don't think.
And expense-wise, that eliminates any possibility of having two signs.
so
Is that correct?
7 by 10, something like that is what anyone thinking, like size wise, because I'll do a couple to scale and I'll send those out.
How much information is going on that sign?
Yeah, tell me the info too. Name of the artist,
And the piece, and the name of the piece.
The name of the piece, right?
and what
Which is
else?
pretty short for most of them. I think they're 1 or 2 words each.
And that's it.
I think so. I don't think we need any
Yeah.
dates. We obviously,
We could put any, like an Instagram account or some way for people to find more info about the artist, a website possibly.
I don't know. I don't think that's necessary. I think people can Google
Okay.
somebody and find all that stuff. I think consistency is important, that it looks the same for each one. I just wonder if we want to, if we want to mention the event, the CSG,
That will be on the entryway metal sign that we did.
Right.
So I think that's saying, you know, Sebastopol Sculpture Garden, City Council,
Yeah.
Public
that's
Arts Committee. That's the entryway
Mhm.
piece. Probably
Yeah.
doesn't need to go on the individual sign.
And I think, you know, just having the name of the sculptor and the name of the piece. I mean, if you're in a museum or an art gallery,
Yeah.
that's basically what you have. You don't have other information.
Right.
Yep.
And since it's a 1-year installation, the date is, it's not like it's a,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
1680s Monet or whatever.
And that's included
Okay.
in the questionnaire for the artists is that the signage will be included with the title and the artist's name, and to let us know exactly how they would like that to read, to be printed.
Also,
Take
another,
care of the names. Yeah, right.
another
I think-
idea I had was, if we want to make maybe a map that maybe could be made out of the same kind of long-lasting material and put near one of the entrances so that there's like an overview of the sculptures and the titles. So just to think about that. I don't know.
I can do that.
What do you think? That's a good idea?
Well, it depends on where we would put it in, if there's room and, I mean, is there a reason that we would need that map since they're so concisely placed together?
I
mean-
just think it would be nice if someone wants to, you know, say, someone says to someone, go look at my piece. It's, you know, it's in the sculpture garden and they want to, it's like a map. They want to look, oh, here's so-and-so, here's this one. And they go over there.
Well, I think if it was scattered throughout the park,
Mhm,
that
mhm.
would make sense.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they're all together.
Okay, other ideas?
Well, I just
Yays, noes?
thinking along the same lines though, in terms of information provided to the artists. If we could use that document, Margie, I think you put together that shows where we decided to install each piece on which platform.
Mhm, mhm.
So I don't know if that's in a state that can be shared with the artist, if it actually has like the artist's last name or first name, whatever, with the platform so that we can share. So they'll have a document they can go back and forth if they need to reinform themselves of where their piece is going to be.
Well, that, there is one, I think sent to everybody, but I can resend it, which has a photograph with the numbers of the platforms and then the numbers of the titles of the sculpture. And I think that's sufficient because an artist will know the title of their sculpture.
Yeah.
I was talking about once it's in, maybe we do a map later. I don't know. It's more complex because you have to wait, you know, would it just have a little, the title? Or is there,
Yeah, let's wait on
Yeah,
that
let's
one.
wait
Let's
on that.
work on the,
Yeah.
okay.
good.
And
Tabled.
can I ask one other thing? We could, are we going to have any listing of this on the city's website, for example? So we could put on the sign just that link, and then it could give more information about the Public Art Committee or the whole sculpture garden, and even more about the artists.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
that could be at the entrance sign for
It
more
could
information.
be
about
at the entrance sign, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What could be at the entrance sign?
For more information about this program.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fine,
okay.
yeah.
You're right. That's great. I think because a lot of artists may want to participate in the future.
Right.
Mhm,
I have a
mhm.
question. Are we in agreement that once these sculptures have been assigned their pad, that's it? We're not going to be changing that around should an
Yes.
artist want their piece in a different location?
You mean when they show up to install it and they say, I want number 5 instead of number
Yeah.
3?
Well, depends how much money they offer us.
Exactly. That's right. If they want to fund the next round of sculptures.
Listen, I'm just putting it out there because that could happen.
Yes, I think we need to be firm.
Okay.
That's why we have you and Jeff working with them to keep them on your job.
Sorry.
You get to be the heavies.
Hold your name out of a hat. You can't do anything about it.
No, tell me, you know, we really thought hard. We had a special
Sure.
meeting. We all went out, we discussed it. And if we can't change you, because then we have to read or do the whole thing.
Right.
So I had two thoughts. One on the entry sign, and I can't remember if we discussed the possibility of having a second one. So there was one on both ends.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Good
Yes?
idea.
Okay.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you, Jen.
The other thought that I had is I just wanted to ask Carrie about the status of the garbage cans.
Hmm.
Thank you.
You know what? I completely forgot about that. Let me ask Dante right now.
Carrie, I'll wait till you finish it. Was there any feedback from Public Works about earthquake proofing or tumbling, or things?
Yeah,
falling
so I
down?
did send that on. That's actually our building department. And I did send it on to them. But I have not gotten, and I followed up earlier this week, I have not gotten a response from the building department, which would normally be the, structural component of it. So I will check in with him again and see if we can't get one of the things that would probably be helpful is if the artists themselves already have something in mind, like if they already have an anchoring rod or something that they would normally have with one of their sculptures. If they have anything like that, that would be great to know. And then that might help our building official know, say, yeah, that seems fine. There's no need to do anything else. Or, the 11-foot marble sculpture with no attachment. Yes, we do need to find some way of securing it.
Yeah, and I think we need to know ahead of time so that we're not blindsided when we get there.
Add it to the letter.
Yeah, just put that in the notes.
Mm-hmm. I've just said maybe something like, we want to make sure that the sculpture remains secure. Could you let us know if you have any special needs to do so?
I think maybe be a little bit more specific about secure. Just some wordage.
I think what is their plan? What is their plan to install the sculpture?
Including,
And make it, make sure it's secure for a year.
Mm-hmm. Good idea.
Yeah, because there's the earthquake tipping, structurally sound part of it, but there's also the not just sitting there, able to be carried away, presumably.
Oh, I have a question, because I noticed that the monument-looking stone sculpture that's in the square had been vandalized, graffitied. And when I saw it yesterday, it was removed, but a new graffiti was put on, was adhered to the other side of it. Do we have some kind of a system in place? Does the building department automatically correct graffiti or defacement when they're informed?
So our public works department would normally do that.
Okay.
I do know, and that's maybe something you can follow up, Barbara, with public works. They don't necessarily want to be cleaning sculptures because they might use a chemical that could damage, say, like the painted or the ceramic sculpture. So it's definitely something that, like I know when we have our artist calls, like for the library, Michael McGinnis, this came up, and he had a list of, hey, it's stainless steel, it can be cleaned with this, this, or this. So that's definitely something that if there is any damage, we'll want to make sure that the artist and public works coordinate.
Okay, good. Because that's such a public area over there, and a lot of kids are, just to be prepared, I think.
So Margie, what's next on the CSG?
okay, thank you. Well, a couple of things on the end of what we've just been doing. When we were talking about installations and dates for installations in January, I think there were 6 or 7 of them. And therefore, if we're looking at January to think about for the opening, the last weekends in January are the 29th and the 30th, and the one before that is the 22nd and the 23rd. So I want to put that out in terms of aiming for opening. And the other is, I again had that question about reporting back from Barbara and Jeff about the information and using that information, incorporating it. So we're going to wait until next meeting for that, or is there a way that we can use that information and incorporate it in what we need to do so we can move along? So those 2 things. Then after that, talking about the opening. We're finished talking about installation. So first of all, reporting back and how we're going to use that information from the artists time-wise. Barbara and Jeff and Carrie or
Okay.
anyone else.
I'm a little confused, Margie. I mean, I don't have any problem reporting back, but I'm just not sure what you intend to use it for, the information.
Just to facilitate us going forward. So if we know, like that everyone is open on these dates,
So we
everyone
need the
is
dates
done.
first, Margie, right? So it's like we need to set the dates first and then we can decide on how to report. So can I just make a quick suggestion? And I know
Please,
maybe I'm butting in
please.
here, but
No.
if we try to ask Public Works for the 4th, 6th, 11th, and 13th, that will also give us the 18th and the 20th as extra days if we want to set the opening for the 22nd, because that gives us a couple extra days. So we put out the letter and saying, are you available on the, give half the group the 4th and the 6th, give the other half the group the 11th and 13th. Hopefully it doesn't take up Public Works whole days, but then we still have 2 extra days just in case, which is the 18th and the 20th. And then we should be able to shoot for that opening on the 22nd. And we'll tell everybody that, set the dates, and if you want to push that back to the 29th, that's fine too. But I don't see why with this much time in advance, we couldn't shoot for those dates.
I
think that's
agree.
Excellent.
Those are all the
Thank you.
dates I have down in the notes right now, the exact ones you mentioned, Jen.
Great. Yeah. Well, if we can just decide on that right now, I think that's plenty of time to get that moving. And then we all, shoot for the 22nd for the opening on Saturday.
I agree with you. I don't have my calendar with me. I think I'd like to move it up a little bit though, just in case we need more than a couple of days of wiggle room. What's the day of the week of the 29th?
Saturday.
That's a Saturday?
29th.
I don't know.
is-
I'd be kind of in favor of doing that just to give us some breathing room.
How about if we have that as a fallback?
Yeah,
That we don't aim for it, but that
But
we
we're
know
gonna-
we can fall back to it.
But we're going to want to start publicizing this pretty soon.
Once we get the information from the artists and Public Works, then we can set. And we know.
We could
Whether
go
or
really-
not interfering.
Our next meeting will be January 5th. And that would give us over 2 weeks, even if we shoot for the 22nd, to really publicize it. And with the attention span of people these days, if you start promoting 2 months in advance, it doesn't really matter anyway.
That's true.
You're really going to drive
Especially
down
during the
in
holidays.
that last week, especially during the holidays. Right. So,
Right.
if
You're
we
right.
do,
Okay.
we try to get it out as much as we can for, if we decide on the 22nd or the 29th, we should know by the 5th of January. We should have our responses, and then by the 5th, we can decide what day the opening is, and we'll just tell everybody we know, promote it in every
Great.
way we can. So
That sounds good.
so the
Okay.
other element to that too, of course, is informing the city council on, they may have some input, you never
Actually, I
know.
was on that front. If we have the 22nd and the 29th as the 2 options and we know the time frame, I can send that to council to save both of those dates to be confirmed, January 5th. And so then they'll know about it. And I think that's probably, just given all the people who might want to be there, I think that's probably the best way of handling it.
Great.
I think that sounds great. I would actually think that if during the hoopla of the holidays, if we just in some form on the city site newsletter say look for in January, just because people are like ooh, and they go and in January, rather than it's done December and January, what, so anyway.
Yeah, I wonder what those concrete pads were for.
Yeah, that too. And we could even, if we can have the signage up, maybe we can, the entrance and exit signage, we could put a little note on that, like a little poster on that saying, look for in January or coming next week or whatever, and updating.
Wow.
So I think it's important to know when we could have the entrance and exit signage. And if we're going to be installing over 2 weeks, maybe when we know, then we can put the signage on the pieces too. Set that up.
I'll work with
January
Carrie.
5.
I'll work with Carrie on the signs after this, and we'll see when we can't get those ordered.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. I think that
And
sounds
then,
excellent.
Thank you.
Margie,
Okay,
as far
yes.
as far as sharing information that Barbara and I collect from the artists, I
Mhm.
think we're going to talk after the meeting as well. So we'll get the dates out first, to everybody and Carrie, but then we can share the other detailed responses from the artists with Carrie, and then Carrie, you could disseminate that however you see fit to the committee.
Good.
That sounds okay.
Thank you.
That's great.
Okay, that's excellent. And then, so then the next thing to discuss, if nobody has anything more on what we just went over, would be planning the opening. And again, so we've been talking about date and initial planning for a ceremony, activities, and who is going to take care of what. So
Let's have a ribbon cutting.
yes,
Margie, you
Yes.
gotta get some big scissors for you to cut the ribbon. I'll hold it. I'll hold
Okay.
the ribbon.
yes, thank you.
I think
think all should
if
be
you
done.
don't have some, we can ask, I think someone does in the city. We had the ribbon cutting for the Libby Park Playground
You have
recently
the
that I was
scissors?
at. I don't have the scissors, but there may be some
Somebody
like in the city
does.
manager's
Machete.
office or something.
What about a dunk tank?
Yeah.
What?
In January? Fine,
Oh.
we're dunking you. That was your
Oh,
idea.
dunk tank. I think it's a dump.
If you thought it, you get.
Woo.
So I
A music,
sent,
Wow,
you
group.
want, is it too cold to have a musician outside? Probably.
Oh, well, if it isn't raining,
Oh, yeah, no, let's not do that.
if I would like strongly to say, if we have any music, it should be, I really would like it to be kind of, like a quartet or classical and not heavy,
no rap music, huh?
no pounding.
You don't want heavy metal?
No
We could have-
skateboard kids hanging around?
You can have a marching band.
What do you call it? The hubbub.
Oh, yeah, the humbug.
Club
Okay, so
for the black
Margie,
sheep.
Margie, if you have an idea of a quartet or something, reach out and see. We could put them under a 10 by 10,
Okay,
and see if they would do it. But if you know anybody, reach out and see if they would be interested in a January.
That sounds great. I love that idea.
and I like the
All right.
idea of maybe the humbug club just before, gathering, drawing people in.
It's
And I would
it's,
want it to
thought.
be
it's
during
hubbub.
the daytime.
Hubbub.
Hubbub, excuse me.
Yeah, humbug is, that's Scrooge.
Yeah, we'll be
Sorry.
past that.
I
already.
knew that. I just, anyway, okay. So then I sent everyone an email back a bit about ideas for the opening. So I talked, one of them I'm definitely scratching, which I had thought was a good idea, but Jen's input made me realize not such a good idea. So besides of that, so we have this opening ceremony and the ribbon cutting, and my idea, I'll read it if you still have the email, but anyway, was the unveiling. I said sometimes during a bright time of the day, perhaps 1 or 2 o'clock, maybe in the 11, I don't know, but then everyone was getting hungry. So I thought 1 is good because everyone's eaten. The unveiling, ribbon cutting, introducing the 6 sculptors. And then to have some events and Ignite type, those of you who remember Ignite. Yes, anybody know about Ignite?
What was it?
Oh, it was a wonderful thing. And it was at the Hop Monk, but it was all over the country, I think. Ignite was everybody, you get to speak, I think it was 3 to 5 minutes.
Oh,
about something that you feel passionate about. And you just get up and you do your presentation, like someone did it about how great kale is, and someone else did it about something else. It was just wonderful because it's something that people are passionate about, and 3 minutes. And they really,
during the opening?
so my idea was to have the unveiling, scissor and the ribbon cutting, introduce the sculptors, and then have events. So the first event would be after the sculptors are introduced and so on, would be an Ignite type event so that each sculptor would have 3 to 5 minutes, I don't remember which the number is, to share something they feel deeply in their hearts, to involve the audience, including inspiring them to view their sculptures and hang out with them. And the sculptors will be, if they are interested, hanging out at their sculptures to interact with people. So that was one idea. Then another event was possibly having some topics that would be related, that different people could, in different locations, could be going for 10 to 15 minutes. And the other idea was a sculpture jam type event, either that day or another, maybe the next day, Sunday. If the sculptors were interested, those that were interested, to work either individually or in twos, perhaps, to do a sculpture making group activity, something like the sculpture jam, where there would be, people could sign up, where there'd be limited number, perhaps, of people per group, and they would create a sculpture. So that so there would be, like, let's say 3 sculptures created if there were 2 sculptors per group. And then we would use one of those, or maybe 2, on one of the extra pedestal, or one for 6 months and the other for 6 months. So those are some of the things I had in mind.
I would like to initially just suggest having a backup plan, because this is a really big thing you're saying, and 15 minutes per, you're talking hours here, and if it's raining, I think that the backup plan could be, we talk to, I know it's not Catherine, but somebody's in charge of the rentals at the Center for the Arts.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
there is a part of the one main room there that faces the sculpture garden, also has an outdoor patio. It's not
Yes.
fully covered, but I've done so many events in that room. It's a fantastic room. It's not super expensive. They might give it to us for free. Fingers crossed. If we
Yeah,
have
and
to rent
even-
it, we can rent it.
If we do rent it, it's a 50% cost for the city to rent
Hey.
compared to their normal rentals. So
We get a
Excellent.
deal. All right. So, I would just say have it as a backup plan, because we could even do projections of the actual person's sculpture instead of standing in front of it, and each person takes their 3 to 5 to 15 minutes, whatever, but we could project it and say, this is their sculpture, and they can stand up and talk if they want to. But I think that in January, mid to late January, you kind of need a backup plan there on that one too.
Wonderful.
Have an indoor, but it happens to be right there within visible sight.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
with this
Thank
much
you.
time in advance, we should be able to get that room.
And is there heat there? Or can
Oh,
there
yeah.
be heat somewhere?
Inside, but not on the
Only
patio.
inside.
Not in the garden part, the patio part.
Not unless they have those,
That's
those-
what I'm wondering about.
I don't
They
know.
don't have them.
No, okay.
They're not out there right now.
All right. Okay. Yes.
And the other thing is that they will have the ability to do sort of a microphone and speakers for the actual, ceremony speaking part of it. So that's the other thing that, and Margie, I don't know if you want to talk to Catherine directly or the Art Center directly about that. And just loop me in as needed. The city would certainly, we have in the public art budget money for things like the opening ceremonies and celebrations for these art pieces. And so we'll be able to cover that cost.
Maybe we could.
While
even
I'm
do
thinking about it, you mentioned a microphone and a speaker amp. If it's outside, is that equipment the city has, I'm assuming, to be?
So that we would probably, I would probably just ask the Arts Center to provide it. They have all of that stuff and they know where they're, I suspect they may even have outdoor speakers on that patio area.
Okay.
Since
And-
I know they've, with COVID, they've moved a number of things where they have, that available for people. I think, because we actually talked to them, I talked to them a while back about our city meetings and is that a potential location? And one of the things that we're talking about was, and if people aren't comfortable being inside for the meeting, they can be outside on the patio and still hear. So I think they have the speakers on the outside and it's all kind of set up, so.
And what if it's not raining and we do have it at the site? What about microphones and speakers?
I think that's what she's saying. I believe there might just be an amp with a cord to a microphone that we could bring out there.
Yeah, let's ask the Arts Center, because if we're going to
the
be renting a
AV
room in case, then just having them deal with the sound is going to be a lot easier.
Okay.
I wonder about having a workshop in that outside area following the opening ceremony, where people could actually make something with artists.
Yeah, that's what I was
that
mentioning.
day,
Yeah.
And have a couple of hours of actually hands-on, and have that part of the day.
Yes. Yes.
If we expect the the exhibiting artists to do something like that, we certainly need to let them know or make that request.
Find out if they're interested.
Yeah, exactly. Just ask if they're interested. Some people might really love to do that.
Yeah.
What about
And
the upcycle folks?
Jen, I was just going to mention that.
Yeah,
I mean, it'd
Maybe
be
they could
crazy
do a
to not
workshop.
have them. They're doing
That's great.
upcycle.
Yeah, for
sculptures,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe we need to know that now when Jeff and I talk to the artists, so we can ask them that question. Would they be interested in participating along with the upcycle group?
We
'Cause I
should
think
maybe invite the upcycle folks to put they have a sculpture. Let's invite them to put one on the extra pad.
I would still like the extra pad to have a community generated one that.
We have two, right?
Well, we have one that we wanted to leave for photos.
Oh, right.
Remember that?
Well, maybe for that day though, that one pad the upcycle folks could have their piece there to kind of reflect what it is they do, especially if they're going to be doing a hands-on.
Okay.
Let's
Well,
point out
let's,
that, I really appreciate all the ideas you've been reflecting on, Margie. I do feel like in the back pocket, the sculpture jam piece might also work on a separate day. So in other words, you really make this announcement, you really promote it at the opening. And so like following weekend, so next Saturday, come back, meet here. We're going to be doing the sculpture jam to try to build pieces for these platforms. We're letting them know these are the platforms that need to be provided.
I love that.
that would be good. And however, think about the sculptors. And if they're going to arrange for themselves to be there on the opening day, it's more likely that they could arrange for themselves to be there a little bit more into the afternoon to do the workshop, or possibly the following day. To ask them to come in addition the following weekend just makes it, to me, I mean, I think that's nice, and it makes it a little less likely to get as many of the sculptors on board. But we could ask.
Okay, so I took notes on those things for Barbara and I to ask.
Yeah, ask them if they'd be interested in doing that, and if so, that the day of, the day after, or the following weekend, following Saturday.
Okay.
Also, I just want to mention that I think it would be a good idea at some point during the ceremony, the opening ceremony, just to mention that there are other upcoming unveilings too, so far, that we have, that are coming.
So are we wrapping up the sculpture garden agenda item then?
Well, Any comments or specifics in the opening event? So what we have so far is the ribbon cutting, introduction of the sculptors, and then yes, on having them each do an ignite type thing, 3 to 5 minutes each. And then beyond that, and then ask them if they would hang out at their sculptures after that to interact when people are looking. And then see when we might do a sculpture jam type workshop, a workshop of creating a community sculptures. And nobody's said any, and then possible music, maybe not. And I don't know, nobody said anything about food. So it, that brings up whole logistic stuff. So right now, I think we'll leave that out of discussion unless someone feels strongly.
Another
So those
consideration
things-
for the
huh?
intro, Margie, might be acknowledging any city council members that are there.
Yes, good.
Who's going to be doing the actual officiating for the ribbon cutting and the speaking to what we're talking about, like introducing the sculptors? Would that be the mayor?
So that's a good question. I think certainly, and the mayor changes December 7th next week. So whoever is the mayor, elected mayor for that, or appointed mayor by the council, I can maybe put them in touch with, would it be one of the PAC members to talk about that and just figure out, they may not want to introduce the artists and they might want to defer to that, but I'm sure they will want to say some words and, help with ribbon cutting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, maybe the chair of our committee then could be the sculptor introduction person.
Might also be good to just kind of give a brief definition of what the PAC is. I mean, a lot of people there may not even be aware of the PAC and what the PAC does.
Yeah.
It does a little, self-promotion and make people aware.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that could be part of what we give the mayor could say an introduction, if it's not too lengthy.
Or the chair of our committee, since we're more familiar with how it works.
Yeah, they may want, exactly, they may want that since you'll know more detail about it.
I wonder if we're meeting on the 5th, if we could actually create an agenda for that event then.
I
I think
don't
that's a great
know
idea.
if I will be chair by then. So I think that, maybe you should skip that part. I think that since my term is ending, we might want to just stick with the mayor for that part and maybe just, or Margie, I'll vote right now for Margie to be the one to speak as, just in case, then we know Margie's going to be a part of it. She's vice chair and we'll see what happens with me with my term ending. I know let's not say for sure yet with that. Margie will be there. We know the mayor will be there, and we should just use that in there as a speech part.
I think that would be appropriate. Margie and Warren were the original sculpture garden subcommittee. So
and let's make sure to invite Warren. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and we can be somewhat flexible about who does what,
Great.
but we'll
Okay.
both be participating. I mean, so Jen, when is your?
I think we can go through that in the planning department
Okay.
report, probably.
Yeah, all right. To that.
Fine,
Okay,
thank
so
you.
if we're done
Okay.
with the sculpture garden, I think all of us have a little bit of homework to do. And I'm really happy that we have the time to move into the January 5th meeting that just gives everybody, well,
Yeah.
sorry
Thank
about
you
that,
all.
Margie, but
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
okay. So we can wrap up that and move into the planning department report then.
Okay, I just want to clarify, and then on January 5th, we'll confirm and set also the agenda for the opening, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so for the planning department report, yes, so I'll start with that first. The city boards and commissions, including the Public Art Committee, Design Review Board, Planning Commission, and Climate Action Committee and Zero Waste Committee all have openings that are being advertised. The deadline for submittal of applications is tomorrow. For those of you who would like to reapply, and so that is Jen, Jeff, and Barbara's terms are ending at the end of December. Now, I anticipate the interviews for that are actually going to be, I think they're actually scheduled the first council meeting in January. And so usually they ask me to ask you all to continue your term until such time that they appoint new folks. So I'll ask that right now, and you can nod or thumbs up or whatever if you're willing to stay on until, if you decide not to renew until they appoint new folks. And then Lars, yes, is for the DRB, and we have a couple other DRB members. You can use your old applications if you want. Just confirm that. Yeah, just send it in to me, or if you need it, email myself or Mary. I think Mary Gurley probably has most of them, and we'll get that to you, and you can either resubmit it or redate it or change it as you like. Other planning department news, I did get an update from Michael McGinnis, and so I'll just on screen this right here. This is kind of the really exciting part. He's starting to, all the pieces were cut at the last meeting, and now they're actually starting to get, and this is sort of telling, it is taking shape. And so there's the, he's struggling with being in a different space and with his all the COVID restrictions, but he is certainly progressing, and he'll be doing. So the process that he has is he needed to do the actual sculpture, so that construction like this, so that he could understand where the precise mounting brackets and bolts needed to be. So now that he has this, he'll be going back into, and I'm coordinating with right now to get back into the library to do the blocking and things that he needs on the library wall facing bodega to be able to do the mounting for this. So I don't know exactly, with everything coming up, but yeah, it's pretty amazing. So he knows I always email him, the week before our PAC meeting. So I think he's gotten used to it, and he's giving us some great progress stuff. So I suspect that in the spring. Sorry?
The title of that piece?
The title of that is Gray Matters.
Right.
And so Lars, Margie, and Jen were all on the board or the committee when that was selected. I think it was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
I think it's Gray Matter.
Sorry,
Yes, I
Gray
think that
Matter.
really
There's a
is
big
important.
difference. Yeah.
Put Gray Matters, and you're going to have a brouhaha.
We're going to have an issue. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Gray Matter.
Black Lives
Thank you.
Matter as well. Yes.
Gray Matter. Thank you. So given that, we will probably have another opening planning. So, make a list of all the logistics we're working on for the sculpture garden. When we have the library, we'll certainly be able to use the meeting room in the library as the interior space. But we'll have an exciting spring and year of art in 2022, I think.
So are we guessing spring for the installation?
I'm guessing spring if he's doing the mounting bolts and the blocking December, January, and finalizing that. And then I'll need to coordinate, the equipment and installation with our public works. So.
Great. And then anything from Ned?
For Ned,
Please.
I haven't heard much from him lately. There is some the building official, because of the height of the sculpture, did request and is requiring some additional geotech work. And so we're coordinating that right now. So originally he was going off of what Caltrans had done for the bridge, and it was all, Caltrans did the piers, so that was all done. And he's sort of asked me to do the coordination of those logistics, which is, I'm trying to work through that, but we will get that done. And I anticipate that will also be a 2022 opening.
So that's it on, there's some paperwork that's being worked on. In terms of the sculpture itself, any progress situation?
I have not heard from him on the sculpture fabrication itself. I can check in and get an update from him for the next meeting now.
Please, yeah.
All right, and other items of interest. We did have a special city council meeting last night about RV safe parking program that a nonprofit called Saves is looking to do, and the council did approve moving forward with, most of you probably noticed, the AmeriGas site on the north side of town. That was previously approved for a mixed use commercial and residential development. It's in the process of being purchased by St. Vincent de Paul, who operate the Los Guilicos village in Sonoma County. And their long-term strategy is to develop it with affordable housing, but they would be leasing it to the city for a year. And then Saves, the nonprofit, would be operating the RV safe parking. Council also directed that that was contingent on clearing Morris Street and adopting citywide parking requirements, so that it doesn't, what's going on at Morris Street, which is unsafe and unhealthy, doesn't just reappear. And so that will, if you're interested in that project, Councilmember Diana Rich and Mayor Glass are the council subcommittee committee on the unhoused who are working on that project. And I know there will be both the follow-up to both the parking, and so that will be, just so you know, the parking will they'll be talking about options for parking permitting programs, likely for RVs or oversized vehicles only, not regular passenger cars. But that will be coming to council in December and January, as will some follow-up on the formation of the Saves parking village at the AmeriGas site.
So, can I ask?
Can I ask? Sorry,
Sure, go ahead. I knew. No, there's no questions on that one.
that was a lot. So in a nutshell, you're saying they want to move the RVs off of Morris Street and put them in the AmeriGas parking lot for a year?
Correct. It would actually be similar to how Park Village, Mobile Home Park by Tamagotchi Park, offers case management services and assistance for people
And
to
that
transition.
could possibly happen as soon as February?
I believe it's mid-January or mid to late January. Yeah.
Wow.
And the staff report for that, which kind of goes over that information, is on the city's website from last night's meeting, if you want to read more detail of it, or watch the 6 hours of meeting that it took last night to go through the item.
So, then the idea is after a year, the St. Vincent de Paul would start building what they call affordable housing in that
So the
site,
funding,
and the RVs would go.
well, that is one of the questions to be resolved. Is the intent is that they help people transition out of RVs and into more permanent housing. What that looks like is something that came up as a question, and what happens. The Saves, which is Sonoma Applied Village Services or something like that. It's an acronym. That nonprofit received funding from the county to operate the village for a year. And so that is what they're looking at. And homeless shelters are allowed in that zoning district. So, and it's out of the floodplain, which is obviously safer for those who are currently parked on Morris Street.
So are they saying that the RVs would could stay on the site during the building of the housing,
So
or where would they go?
Yeah, so the use as permanent affordable housing in the future, that's going to take more than a year to figure out. But Margie, I do not have the answer to the
Okay,
question of what
all right.
happens after a year. That's a question that came up
Okay.
with council, and
And the other
that is
question
something we'll
was,
need to figure
the other
out.
question was, do you have any idea when they say, the word affordable housing as a component or as something is so vague and variable. Sometimes it's, 1 or 2 units that maybe someone could afford possibly, and sometimes it's really housing for people who are unhoused.
Yeah, I don't, this literally came up the week of Thanksgiving when I was on vacation, or the week before. So I know a little bit about it, but I have not even had one conversation with St. Vincent de Paul in terms of what their long range plans are. I'm sure as the planning department that will go through the planning process, and I'm sure we'll be having conversations with them in the next few months to better understand their vision.
Carrie,
But in terms of affordable housing, they're looking at what would likely be a deed restricted to certain income levels. So the rents are based on the income levels.
Carrie, are they looking to have any neighbors within the few block radius of the AmeriGas to talk about whether or not they're interested in having the RVs there?
There were several neighbors at the meeting last night and who attended the meeting, and I know that they are doing outreach to the neighborhood as well. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I live right there.
Oh, okay.
I live really close. I just don't think I didn't know about that, and I don't think that a lot of my neighbors knew about that. It's just interesting.
Yeah, like I said, Councilmember Rich is kind of the spearhead of, she was doing a lot of the site, looking for sites, and she's a great contact for that.
Okay.
And I do believe I don't know if it's on the city's website, but I think they are looking at doing a neighborhood meeting at the community church. I don't recall when that is.
Great.
I can email Mary, our city clerk, because I think she may be more involved with that.
Are there any other things on the planning department report? Because I do have one other question going back to the first item.
The only thing I wanted to mention otherwise was that I believe December 14th, we have a planning commission meeting, and we'll be talking about the Calder Creek naturalization in Ives Park, for those of you who might be interested.
Definitely. So can I go back and ask, were there a lot of other people who had applied to the Public Arts Committee like last time?
I think there was one person more than slots, if that makes sense. So I think there were some renewals, and then I think there was one person who applied. So if there were 2 slots available, 3 people applied.
When I had my last interview, I did tell City Council, because City Council had asked all of us if we wanted more members on the Public Arts Committee, which all of us said we didn't want.
I recall that.
So when City Council asked me personally, I did say that I would be happy to take a step down so we could have fresh blood, basically, new ideas, new people. And so that would be the reason why I didn't renew, because I just wanted to give that offer, and City Council seemed fine with it. I would feel like I was going back on my word for me to renew with other people applying. So I don't want to be, in any way condescending or, ridiculous about saying, I was going to say that, but now I'm going to keep it. So I just wanted to be really honest with them and honest with all of you guys. And I love being a part of the Public Arts Committee, but as long as there's other people applying, I think that it would be my duty with what I said, to be honest, to not reapply.
What if your fellow or whatever members of the Public Arts Committee were to suggest that you not, in other words, suggest that you remain on the committee, and that was coming from them and not you?
I would be happy to offer to be a part of any subcommittee. I would be happy to do graphic design work for you guys for as long as you need it. I mean, I volunteer all over the city, volunteer with Grayton Fire Department, the Center for the Arts. I've always done, documentary film festival stuff with Cynthia and Jean for years. So I would be happy to, and we talked about having subcommittee members from outside the Public Arts Committee. So bring me in wherever you need me. But I think one thing that City Council made it very clear was that they didn't want it to be the same people holding these seats forever, which, funny enough, seems to be a lot what City Council does. So, they kind of are holding on to their seats, but, as a show of what might be the best thing. And maybe it's not, I don't know. But, I've been a part of the grant giving process in the arts, from Seattle. I did it for almost 10 years. And then I came here, and I've been lucky enough to do this for a very long time too. And, I'm happy to take that step back if somebody else wants the spot, So
I didn't get that information from them at all, that attitude or that position, just to say. When I spoke with them, there was discussion about having more people, which we're not going to do except as subcommittees, but there was no discussion of longevity or whatever.
Not longevity. I think the implication was to add more people, that people wanted to become members of the board. And as long as we hold those seats, no more members could become members unless we added more positions, which we all said we didn't want. So when I was in the meeting with City Council, I said, well, then the only answer is to have members who've been here the longest. I'm one of the longest, Margie and myself, would be to step back.
Well, that's my point, Jen, is that, yes, and you agreed apparently to that scenario, but my suggestion was, what if the other members of the committee would lobby, would suggest that you remain. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be coming from your agreement to that situation. It would be coming from the request of the rest of the committee. Does that make sense to anybody but me? In other words, I get what you're saying. You don't want to renege on something that you agreed to do or even initiated. I get that. But then I'm getting also that it may be very valuable for you to remain, and that request would come from the rest of the committee.
So
and it makes me wonder about, the committee also voicing its position or its feelings about the other people who are up for renewal. So that according to what Carrie just said, it's everyone but me.
No, well, so
No?
Lars is
Lars is on
Lars
the
is here
DRB.
because he's the DRB.
Right, and his
So-
DRB is up for renewal, right?
Correct.
So,
Correct.
and then Jeff and Barbara.
Correct, because they're filling so I mean, if those of you don't mind, we do have applications in from Lars, Barbara, and Jeff already. So hopefully, I'm sure there'll be some reappointment. I don't think we actually have any other public art committee applications as of yet. So certainly if there are three slots and 3 applications, Jen, and maybe I can coordinate with you and Mary that, if there aren't any other outside applicants, I would certainly want you to reapply. We would normally do a 2-week extension if we don't have the same number of if we have 3 slots but only 2 applicants. The opening will automatically.
I thought you said there was one more outside application.
Okay, so I was talking about the last time we had an application period, which was, I'm sorry, we only have 2, I believe, right now. So, and same with the DRB, we have a couple of members who are, their terms are ending, but they both reapplied, and we have another vacancy for that. So, so I don't anticipate a huge changeover necessarily, Margie, of ALBA members other than you. So
Well, my question was also, though, partly in response to what Barbara was saying, is there, what's the condition or situation with the other members of the PAC having input or being able to express opinions about.
Sure, I can answer that. So
Yes.
thank you. And so I don't think it's appropriate to do as a PAC. However, you're all members of the public and are free to comment on any public item that goes before the city council, including the interviews and appointments of all of the various committees. And Margie, I know you have made a public comments in the past about at that during, on that agenda item.
It wasn't about specific people. It was about my view of what I was hoping we would get, and we did.
Yes. Yeah, no, thank you. And that was, but similar to that, yes, anyone can comment as a private member. And we often have people who submit letters in support of a person's application. So that is not as a PAC member, but as a member of the general public, you are all more than welcome to do that. And
Okay, we'll
I'm
keep
just
in touch
going
and let me
to-
know. Sorry.
Thank you.
No, that's okay. I was going to look forward to and confirm the date that will be on the city council agenda, just so you all know. I don't know if I can do it in the next 3 minutes.
No, don't. We should wrap up anyway.
All right.
I just keep in touch and let me know if there are other applicants, outside applicants. I definitely want to stand by my word and allow other members, since we had, I believe, multiple people who applied last time who didn't have a chance to be a part of the Public Arts Committee, which is exciting. So anyway, moving on past all of that, I think that we can wrap up on time today. And
I have a question.
Jeff?
Yeah.
I was experimenting with the lowering and raising of the hand symbol. No judgments there. So I have two things. First of all, Jen, yeah, thanks for sharing that and your selflessness around that. And I'm sure, we all have potential personal reasons why we may decide to move on. You would definitely be irreplaceable, I have to say.
Thanks.
Thanks for your leadership in the just under 2 years I've participated. I did have another question about, and this doesn't have to happen now, Carrie, but if there was an update on signage, because in the past you shared about where the city's at with signage. We talked about some of the entry signage coming into town. That can happen at the next meeting, no concern. And
Okay.
the meeting is adjourned. I just wanted to know if I could ask the committee a non-PAC question.
All right, hold
wanna
on.
do
If you
that
wait just a
after we-
moment, let me stop since we are now